to the Dollar Tree and see what I can find. These are bath soap. Oh, that'll be fun. That'd be a good gift. We'll try that. Here are the bath soap crystals I got from Dollar Tree, and I think I'm going to put a monogram on the front and maybe a border around the side, and I'm going to use our adhesive vinyl. So first I'm going to measure around this to see how long my border needs to be. All right, looks like it needs to be about 8 3/4 inches to get beneath the monogram. Perfect. Now I need to take this label off. So one way is just get your fingers in there, take the label. Hey, sorry for the interruption, but if you like what you're watching, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and ring the bell to be notified of all new tutorials. And now we're just going to clean the jar with some Awesome from the Dollar Tree. I've decided to make a band of bubbles around the jar, so I'm not going to use 8.5 because I don't want it to overlap. I'm only going to use 7.5 inches for my design field. And to make my design field, I pull a square from Shapes, stretch it to 7.5 and to the width I want. To begin making my bubbles, I go into Shapes on the left side rail and pull out 3 circles. I want one of my little bubbles to be clear, so I superimpose a circle on top of the gray circle, and I want to make sure it's in the middle, so I go up to a line and I center them horizontally. Then I go into Select All and slice out the middle. Now that I have my 3 bubbles, I give them each a different color, and I start playing around with the sizes again. And finally, I duplicate each one, I think about 5 times, just so I'll have enough bubbles to play around with and fit them into my band. Next, I spend an inordinate amount of time playing around with these bubbles and trying to come up with the perfect pattern. Now, since you don't want to have to apply each of these bubbles individually, I decided to hide the blue bubbles and the yellow bubbles, and then I selected all my little clear bubbles and attached them so I could print them at one time and apply them at one time. And then I did the same thing with the yellow bubbles and the blue bubbles. You just hide the bubbles you don't want to attach the bubbles you want to print together, and you're done with it. Once I finished attaching my 3 different bands of bubbles, it was time to cut them. So I went into Color Sync so I could put each band on one mat. And I thought maybe the yellow mat would be the easiest to see. Then I arranged my 3 different bands of bubbles on my virtual Cricut mat, and I was ready to cut. And because I'm using adhesive vinyl, I always put the pretty side up and I do not mirror my images. Once I finish weeding my images, I take my transfer tape, smooth it carefully over the top of each band, and then I cut the 3 bands apart for application. Now it's time to burnish the bubbles onto the transfer tape and carefully remove the backing. Once the white backing comes off of the bubbles, the sticky part is up, and that's what's going to go on the little plastic jar. Now it's time to start applying my bubbles. So I put the biggest bubbles down first, and as I go around the jar, I gently rub down those bubbles with my thumbs or fingers. This is where you want to have some patience. And if you can't get the bubble to come off the tape, just use something sharp like your reading tool to kind of gently urge it off the tape. This may take a little time, but it's worth it. Now for the front of the little jar, I want to use an image of a bathtub. So I go into Cricut Images and pull up a couple of bathtub images that I like. I've already measured how much space I have on the front for the little bathtub, so I know I have about 1.5 inches wide for the bathtub. So I lock that in, and then I type out my granddaughter's name and start looking for some font. This is what always takes me so much time. But in this case, I got lucky because I knew I wanted a font that was a little rounded to go with the bubbles. So I landed on Arial Rounded and chose that for my font. Once I had my copy sized the length I wanted, I gave it a different color and went into color sync so I could prepare it to cut on one mat. And finally, I went through the whole drill again of weeding the images and burnishing them onto transfer tape. For the little bathtub, I used our HTS matte adhesive. I put that onto the jar first, and next I covered it with the word Heather, and that's out of our hologram adhesive. And then I was done. Easy peasy and so much fun. And talk about an inexpensive gift. Thanks, everyone.